Welcome. My name is Lisa. I'm with Queen Bee Creations, and today we're going to be working on a card. Now this morning, if you caught my blog post, you saw that I had done a card using the Nothing's Better Than bundle, and we made a card, and I said that it was made with stuff we don't have anymore. So today I'm making one with stuff that's current in our catalog, and it is so much easier. You are going to absolutely love this. So stay tuned and let's make a card. This is today's card, and it's done with the It A Whirl Dies. And it has a spinner in it. And the wonderful thing about these dies is it does all the work for you. These are the dies, and it comes with this piece, which is going to cut the front of our card. And it's going to give it where the little brad goes in the middle, and it's going to give it the notch that allows us to spin the card. And then there's another die that is going to make the spinner. So there's this one that's cut out with this piece here. And then we have the option of using like this kind of a window, and they have the little hole in the middle so you can line it up with where your brad's going to go. And you can put this anywhere you want it, wherever you want your little spinner to end up. And they've got one that's in that shape. They've got one that's in like a word frame. This would be great for sentiments that go around in a circle. There's a heart if you wanted to do something with Valentine's Day. And then we have a circle. And again, that can go anywhere. And it's going to give you the peekaboo that's going to go through and show you this. And so it's not cut out yet because it's allowing you to choose where you want it to go on your card and what shape you want to use. So that's extra fun. So we're going to be doing this. I've done a little bit of the work ahead of time because I did the heat embossing, because I know I hate to have you guys listen to me as I play with the heat tool because it makes a whole lot of noise and you don't want to hear that. So I did already do this, but I'm going to show you how I lined up those stamps on that layer. In the stamp set, we have these big words, right? And so I went ahead and I laid them down on my grid paper to find my lines so that I knew it was straight. And then I went ahead and stamped it on this layer. And I did that with Versamark. So I'm going to ink up all 4 stamps at once, and this is allowing me to line them up consistently and get kind of a pattern going. And I know you're not going to be able to see the Versamark since it does leave kind of a clear look, but if I get the right angle on it, I can see where they are. And so I'm just picking up where it left off. So if I started here, then I was able to continue it this way. Now I want it to be offset a little, and so I'm going to start further over. But again, we can come back in and we can continue, and I'm just going to get more of this side this time. And then it's going to go across the bottom. So are you following me so far? Well, maybe you can catch a little bit of the light. You can see how it's on there. And then I take a small piece of just printer paper, and I'm going to use that to catch the excess of the embossing powder, because I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pour this all over. And there's really no way to do too much because you're just going to tap it off anyway. So anything that you don't use and doesn't stick to your card is going right back into the container. So it's better to get a good overall coverage than it is to be skimpy with the powder because it's going right back in. So I would take this piece now and heat it up with my heat tool, and then it would melt the embossing powder, and that's going to give me kind of a shiny look. So this is after I heated it. And this is clear embossing powder, and then I'm going to sponge over the top of it. And I say sponge, but I'm actually going to use my blending brushes because I did try this a couple different ways, and I've done this in some other videos. I tried it with our stamping sponges. I tried it with the sponge daubers, But these things, oh my gosh, this was a game changer. They take a little bit of extra effort to learn how to work, but they work fabulously. And then I have one in each kind of color family. I have one that does all of my browns, one that does all my greens, one that does all my blues. And as long as it's fairly dry, you can tell I'm not really getting much off of that. So it's not going to change the fact that last time I used soft suede and now I'm using crumb cake. Because I'm inking it with the crumb cake, that's going to be my predominant color. So with these, one of the tricks is you want to ink it up pretty good, and then you want to start off of your project, because when you first go down, it's going to give kind of a heavy mark, and we don't want that on our project. We want our project to be fairly consistent. So I'm doing a swirling motion, again, starting off the paper and sliding onto it. And look at how smooth and even that is. I mean, how exciting is that? And I don't know if you can, I mean, I threw it away. It was so bad. But this is what my stamping sponges did with the soft suede ink. I mean, and it's more than just I used a lighter color ink. I mean, look at the marks that the sponge gave. These brushes do not do that. And I find when I use the sponge daubers, I end up with these little circles in the middle of my cards. But if I'm using these, then I don't. And then, after I've done this part, I use a tissue to wipe off the excess. But I'm going to take a tissue and I'm just going to rub across it. Now the cardstock is going to hang on to the ink, but the embossing powder's not. So as I'm buffing this, my words are getting lighter and lighter. Since they're clear, it's showing the white cardstock underneath. And so there's the front of our card. But see how I've got the consistent pattern? And I got that by lining up all my stamps at once. So now all we need to do is decide where we're going to put our little peekaboo hole. For any card base, any new stamper knows, we're going to cut in half and score in half. So I'm going to use the scoring blade to go at 4 1/4, and then the cutting blade to go at 5 1/2. This is going to give me 2 card bases. Then I'm going to butt it up to the bottom and then fold it over. I'm turning the mountain or the valley into a mountain. So since I went down this way and it already broke the fibers here, then this is my mountain on this side. So you can see here where that went down. I don't want to continue going down. I want to reverse it and go mountain fold. And then you can see how it pops up. And that's why we have the bone folder. For years, I never used one. I thought, what's the point? It's just a little, what is that doing? I can smooth out the edge. Well, apparently not as well as the bone folder can. So after many years, it has converted me. And now I use one all the time. So funny how that works, right? Okay, so here's the front of our card. And again, we could add an additional layer, you know, we could dress it up a little more, but I'm just trying to show you how easy the dies are to put together. So since we have this, and then we have our wheel, and really I want the wheel to be broken down into 4 quadrants because I want to use the 4 elements that are in here, the coffee, chocolate, cocktails, and cookies. Sometimes you'll want it in 3, sometimes you'll just have 2. It all kind of depends, but I wanted it in 4, and I wanted it kind of even. And so I just used a pencil mark that I can erase later to even it out so I know where they're going to go. Then I'm going to take our circle from our dies. So I'm going to use my circle for where I want my hole to be. And again, like I said, this can be anywhere. This time I made it kind of towards the bottom, and my rotator on the bottom. This time I'm going to do it off to the side, and I'm going to have my rotator on the side just for a little something different to show you how it works and how versatile it can be. So I'm going to bring in my cut and emboss machine, and I use this all the time. And often people ask me what it is, and this is a precision base plate by Sizzix. We used to have one. It was kind of a slate, and it got a lot of cardstock stuck to it, and you know, it did help with more detailed dies, but it didn't stay nice. And I don't know, I'm funny about that. So this one was for sale. I don't know what a craft fair I went to, and I picked it up, and I love it. And I have it stuck to my magnetic platform. Now, the machine will come with its own plates, its own platform, everything. But you also need to know that any plates you have already for your big shot are going to convert over and will work in this. So I'm lining up that hole with the hole in this layer, and I'm putting a plate on top and just running it through. So that made my hole. This is where this is going to spin around and show me what's in the back. But then I have this label on the front, and it's got a hole in it too. So for my original label, I used the Tasteful Labels dies, and I used this one here. On my original card on my blog today, it was with the stitched nested labels, and they have since retired. If you have those will work as well. But you just basically want to know where this is going to go. So we know that, you know, we don't want it too close to the top. I think the one on my blog the other day was a little too high. So I'm going to just move this down, center it where I want it, and then I'm going to flip it over and draw with a pencil again where that hole's going to go. And then I'm going to line it up as best I can with this and feed it through the machine. Okay, so now this label has the same size hole as is in the front of this card. That's going to be the front, and that's going to go on our card base. So have I lost anybody so far, or are you all following me here? Do you see how easy this is? The dies lay it all out for you. It's like almost done already for you. Now, like I said, this is where I wanted the spinner to have our little options. So I'm going to come in here with my stamps, and I'm actually going to stamp on this one I put into quadrants. And again, pencil marks are always a good thing because you can totally erase them, and it helps you place things up. My goal is always to make things easy for you. And so if putting a few pencil marks helps you line stuff up, fabulous. If you don't need them, great. But like I said, I don't want anything to be stressful. The idea is that stamping is fun, and we're here to enjoy ourselves, not get stressed out, and we don't throw stuff away. We fix it. A little boo-boo always means you either flip the layer or you add an embellishment, right? So as I'm rotating this, I'm lining up my circle in the middle where the brad's going to go, and I'm making sure my circle is centered in my quadrants. So this is where my 4 options are going to go. Okay, now most of these are going to fit perfectly. I found that the cocktail was a little bit long, but that's okay. We can just come in with some scrap paper and make sure it doesn't overhang too much. Here's my coffee cup. We've got a cookie, and we've got some chocolates. Memento, because I'm going to color them with the Stampin' Blends. Now remember, as this is on my card, this is going to spin around in a circle, and my option for viewing them is going to be here. As it spins around in a circle, I want this one to always be right side up. So I'm going to start right here. I'm going to try to keep it within my circle and make sure it's right side up. Now it's going to spin in my card, and then that's going to be the next one. So you can't just, you know, stamp the 4 of them willy-nilly if they have an upright. I mean, obviously the cookie could go however, but we don't want our coffee cup and our cocktail to appear upside down. It just wouldn't look right. So I'm kind of keeping in mind how this is going to rotate. Now here is where I said this one's too long. Can you see how it overhangs? So all I'm going to do is put a Post-it note there, or some scrap paper or something that will cover up here so that it doesn't. And that's all there was to that. Now for the coloring, I just used Stampin' Blends, like I said. And for the chocolate and the coffee, I actually used the bronze. I don't know, it looked more chocolatey to me than the other browns that we have. So let's just do some quick coloring. For the ones on the outside, I've already colored them, so I don't bore you too much. But I will show you these. See what a rich, warm brown this bronze is? And then if you wanted to lighten up in the middle, that's what the color lifter is for. If you want a little bit of a highlight in the middle, that just lightens it for you. Because some people have asked me, why do I need that color lifter? And it is a little bit for correction, but it's also to help with blending and to lighten up middles for highlights. Okay, so I colored with the Mint Macaron Dark. Then I'm going to come in with the light. And I'm going to do small little circles over where they connect and go right back over the dark and then drag it across to the light. So that's how they blend. So hopefully we don't have lots of, you know, definition there. It's just an ombre effect kind of. And then I'm going to put coffee in the cup with just a little bit up here. I wanted to make sure to leave the rim, so there is some mint macaron across the top. And then the coffee in there. And then we have our drink. And for this one, because the lemon is so small and there's really not room to blend, I'm just doing the darker for the rind and the light for in the middle. And the key to do this quick, you want to get on there right away to blend your colors. You wouldn't do the dark, walk away, and come back and do it, because you want to do it while it's still wet. That's the whole thing that helps it blend, is the fact that they're wet. So the quicker you can do it, the better. So if you're coloring something really large, like a large flower, then maybe you want to do a few petals at a time so that you have time, you know, to mess with it and have it still be wet. Then we have currant brads in our catalog right now. But I happen to have these left over from my scrapbooking days, like forever ago, and I'm still using them. And I like that they're colored. Now this one's going to be hidden, so not a big deal. The ones that we have in the catalog now, I believe they're kind of a mix of brass and silver and such. But if you like the idea of them being colored, one thing you can do is stick them kind of into a foam block and then use fingernail polish, and you can color the tops of them and have any color brad that you want. Now remember I said I wanted this to have a little cutout. So you'll see when I go to put it onto my card, it needs a little bit of a notch. Now once I get it up on the foam dimensionals, I mean it could, you know, you could stick your finger in there and you could wiggle it, but I think for simplicity's sake, I want to go ahead and make my own little notch. And so I just marked it with my pencil, and we can go back in with a die, or if you happen to have a punch laying around, you can do that too. And it's not going to be exactly the same size, but it's going to be close enough that they'll be able to stick their finger in there and move this around. And then this is going to get stuck to the card using dimensionals, because you want that to be able to spin. And this does spin a little bit flat like this. If I was to use seal in the corners, maybe it would work. But I want this to flow freely in the back. And so I'm going to give it that little, I don't know, 1/8 of an inch or whatever it is our dimensionals are, pop to it. Now I have this one and it's almost used up. And I wanted to show you that we don't want to throw away the edges. We want to keep those. They can be super useful because like over here, we don't have a whole lot of room, but we could come in, we could cut these up and come in and use these in the corners or along edges to help pop things up. And we also get the most out of all of our materials because we're using it all. We're not throwing any of it away. And we do have the adhesive strips, and they would be great for this as well. But just remember that the adhesive strips are not the same thickness as the Stampin' Dimensionals. I don't know why. They're just not. So they can't be used together. You use one or the other. And then this is going to go over the top. There was also some little dies in here if you wanted to. This one actually would cut out a little ring that you could put over the little hole and have a peekaboo ring instead of the label that we're doing. So the die set is complete, but I wanted to put some words on this because the point of my card is to show the dilemma. So this says today's plan is to consume, and then we're going to rotate for whatever our choices are for the day. And then again, because this one has that little bit of a brad in the middle and we don't want that to look like a bump, I'm going to go ahead and put this on dimensionals as well. Again, I'm just giving clearance, and I'm going to use some smaller ones on this side. Everybody always says, what's your favorite adhesive? I don't really have one. I use them all. It's for different reasons that I will use different stuff. So I'm kind of bad that way. Now to line this up, I've got my fingers underneath here and I'm holding it up and tilting it so I can see. I'm trying to get it on there straight. And then you can see how my choices will rotate. And because I kept with the orientation, they're all right side up. Nothing's upside down. And then we're ready to stick it to the front of the card. Okay, so there's the front of our card. And of course, none of my cards are complete until I've stamped an inside. I went ahead and did that ahead of time. Okay, now this still looks a little bit blank to me. So over here to the side somewhere, I have the little ones that I cut out and colored. So these are the same stamps that I used on the inside for my wheel. And then I use the die cuts that coordinate with them. So this is part of the bundle. This one says coffee. There's chocolate, cookies, and cocktails. And this one says love you more than. And then you have your choices. So again, I'm just going to hook these to the front of my card, pull in some dimensionals. Okay, this one, I'm putting it on one half, but not the other, because this already has a dimensional underneath it, and I want this to overhang. And so this dimensional makes this side even with that. You follow? If I had used a dimensional under here, it would have been one dimensional on top of another. Not what I wanted. So again, I'm going to have this hover off the side. So I only need one dimensional. I'm going to make sure that hits the card front and the other part hits my label. And then I'm going to stick my cocktail over here. So there we go. There's today's card. Again, this was done with the Love You More Than dies, the Nothing's Better Than stamp set, and the Give It a Whirl dies. Did make sure to use these dies because I don't think they're featured very well in the catalog. They are listed right here. They're on page 163. They're $39, but like I said, it gives you all those various options. And it's shown on page 57, they say. Now, I blew over page 57 because it looked like a young people's card, and I don't have any kids in my realm I thought would like that. So I didn't even really see it. but they're used right here. And so I guess they did the planets and the little dog and then the rocket, and that's the spinning item through here. And again, they don't come with directions, so that's why you have me. If you ever have any issues and you need help, that's what I'm here for. As your Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, I'm your creative coach. I help you be creative with the supplies that you have and help you with any additional things you might need to even out your stash. So you can find all of these things in my online store, and you can also contact me through email or phone if you wanted help placing your order. And again, I have classes that are meeting now live, so if you want to come to the studio here in Twin Falls, I've started up live classes again. And actually this next weekend on Saturday, we're actually doing a painting class. My husband's been cutting out tiered tray elements. It was a new thing to me, but he's been cutting them out. They've been selling like crazy, and I decided we would have a class and paint them here because it doesn't really need paint brushes. It's all done. Each little piece that's cut out is only one color, and we can do that with makeup wedges. So that sounded easy enough, right? So we're going to do a class on that Saturday, and then I've got one class a week scheduled. Again, if there's anything that you need, that's what I'm here for. Give me a holler and we will hook it up. Thanks for joining me. Bye.